delighted to be here on location today in Poole at Woodstock Legal Services with Carly, who is the founder. So thank you so much for having us.
Lovely to
today.
see you.
It's really nice to be here. The sun is shining slightly, and I've seen a little bit of the sea, so it's quite nice. Nice from the grey.
Nice spot to be. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So, Carly, it was just really wanted to kind of get together with yourself. We know, obviously, you're a client of ours and have exhibited at quite a few of our shows now, and you're also an award winner with our list awards. Twice, yeah, that's very important, twice, which you absolutely are. So I really wanted to find out a little bit more about Woodstock today, and really, how did it all start?
Oh, how did it start? I am a lawyer myself, so I was about 5 years qualified, and my first child arrived, and it suddenly dawned on me that it was going to be incredibly difficult to do what I was doing in a traditional law firm, and be the mum I wanted to be. And I was practicing general property litigation, and I don't know if you ever stepped into traditional law firms, but I did find them frustrating places to be, and I could see that there was a way to deliver legal services in a different way. And what we've set up here is, a lot of our solicitors are self-employed, not all of them, but generally it's about offering legal services in a much more practical, human-centred approach. So the lawyers, being as approachable as possible, not using heavy legal jargon, really building relationships with our clients and the teams that we work with, much more personable. And that's how it was set up. And instead of I used to do very wide litigation, property litigation, and landlord and tenant stuff was, something that was quite straightforward. I used to do on the side. I'll do that. It's a nice, easy case. And it's just developed so much over the years. The whole, industry has become a lot more professionalised. The law's a lot more complex. And I really saw that there was a need for really niche teams that really knew what they were doing. And that's what we've built here. And we've got a team of 10 of us now, and we operate around the whole of England and Wales. We do lots of work in Wales. Don't touch Scotland, working in all of the courts, really niche specialists who really know what they're doing, because it's a really challenging legal system in terms of gaining possession, dealing with tenant claims. So being niche specialists is what I was looking to create, and we've built that team.
Amazing. So really, you guys cover absolutely everything to do with the sort of private rented sector, and to sort of help landlords, so every aspect of that. Yeah,
so we've got a niche residential landlord and tenant team, so we do everything from possession claims, rent arrears recovery, more complex stuff, so dealing with company lets, housing disrepair claims, which we are seeing, many more of. Unlawful evictions, they're always good fun. They still happen. Usually they happen where people just haven't documented or gone through the right process. Sometimes they are genuine unlawful evictions. So we deal with everything. We work with, one-off landlords, but we also work with lots of larger agents, doing lots of their work in-house. We do training for agents as well, work for lots of landlords that have insurance cover as well. So we do lots of volume work, but we also do some really complex defended claims as well. But we also, as Woodstock as a whole, with lots of property lawyers as well, so doing the more transactional work, and we work very closely with them. And I'm a firm believer that, buying a buy-to-let property is very different to buying, your family home, and it should be treated differently. And we work very closely with our property team. We'll look at the paperwork with them, spot any problems. And, we have seen them over the years where they've just been dealt with as a normal property transaction. Things get missed, how's the deposit going to be dealt with, that sort of thing. So we cover everything. We also do employment law, family law, etc., and it all feeds in really nicely, company law as well. So.
Brilliant. So it's really, just to recap there, guys, it's, Woodstock can actually offer really a one-stop shop in every single aspect of sort of private rented sector landlord needs. So really, your sort of approach on everything, Carly, how would you say your approach is different?
I talked about, for me, it's really important that our landlords and our agents see us as incredibly approachable, and will pick up the phone if they've got a problem, and they do. It's not unusual for me to get a call at 6 o'clock on a Friday to say, Carly, I've got this problem tenant, I need it sorted, what can I do? And the team will give you honest and practical advice based on the experience they've got, having dealt with these sorts of situations over the years, knowing what approach the courts will take and all the different courts, what their approach would be. So it's about that, but also we understand the courts are incredibly slow. We really value looking at trying to find solutions for landlords. So that might not always be taking it through the courts. Whilst we'll always protect a landlord's position, make sure a notice is served as quickly as possible, proceedings are issued, and we push it through that very slow court system as quickly as possible, we'll always look at what the other options are. And, you know, time and time again, there are other options, and it may be that you can work with the tenant and agree to surrender that tenancy. Sometimes people just need a get out. And it might be, you know, you take a really commercial approach and say, look, I'm going to write off those arrears because actually the prospects of recovery are quite low. I'll return the deposit if you give me possession on that date, and you no longer have to go through the courts and watch those arrears climb. So the team are very well trained in spotting that and opening up the lines of communication and trying to do deals where they possibly can, or stabilise a tenancy. You know, sometimes, you know, a tenant may just need assistance from a guarantor to get back on track, and, you know, support that tenant because they've been a good tenant for 6 years, they've fallen on hard times, you know, but quite often we will do surrenders. You're in a market where there's, you know, to find another tenant is relatively easy, demand is high, so actually sometimes it's you know, and it can be quite a tough pill to swallow for some landlords, but sometimes that's the right approach.
And that's a fantastic approach, because actually, as you say, often and not, sort of, you know, being a landlord myself, and you've also been a landlord first hand, I think sometimes it is the communication, and it can take something as simple as finding that solution, that middle ground, without having to end up in court and going down that road. So that's a really refreshing approach. So that's brilliant. And then in terms of you know, what would you say are the biggest challenges for landlords and they're facing at the moment?
Obviously, the law is very complex. We've got the reforms coming in, so there's big change coming. There's been years and years of us pushing towards it being much more professionalised. And, you know, the courts are incredibly slow. That's one of the biggest concerns, and it has been for a long time. There's a huge amount of investment needed there. So, you know, it can be very frustrating for landlords, and we try and move things as quickly as we possibly can. We know which courts are, you know, particular hotspots for delays, and we'll always advise on, like I say, the other options as well. And, you know, and when it comes to actually gaining possession back, whether we can use high court enforcement or whether we're waiting for county court bailiffs, but, you know, it's the pace that the courts move at, and also the complexity of the legislation. Landlords have to be on top of it. They do need a really good support network, and that's, you know, lawyers that know what they're doing, lettings and property management agents that, you know, can really support them, avoid things like housing disrepair claims. It's a lot to keep on top of, so you know, you need that support system around you.
Fantastic. And then let's talk reforms, the rental reforms. What's your take on those?
I mean, we've had a long time to think about them and digest them. The detail's not there, but, you know, we've just recently had some amendments. I'm not concerned about them overall. I think they needed to happen. I think Section 21 has quite for some time not been fit for purpose. My concern is, and, you know, this is a concern that's echoed by so many, is that, you know, Section 21, no fault eviction, very rarely was a no-fault eviction. I've never had a landlord saying, I just fancy evicting this person. There's always a reason, you know, and, you know, that reason is normally rent arrears. So there's going to be a huge amount of tenants that are evicted now on a Section 8, go to court and have a judgment against them, whereas previously they'd have slipped out under a Section 21 and no real impact for them. And anti-social behaviour. I think that's one of my biggest concerns about the reforms, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to deal with that one. So where we've had low-level rent arrears and anti-social behaviour, Section 21's always been, you know, the course of action, because proving antisocial behaviour in a court is really difficult, because, you know, the people that you need to give witness statement evidence are often really reluctant. That's probably one of my biggest concerns. And also, we've talked about the court delays, the court infrastructure. It's needed investment for a very long time, and my concern is that, you know, where you're doing Section 8 and they need their day in court, how's the court going to accommodate this? Is the system going to get even slower, which is not appealing for landlords? So that's my big concern.
Okay, totally agree with all of that. And obviously we've got an election looming, so let's see what happens there.
Really interesting.
Carly, that was amazing. It was really insightful and some great information there. Thank you so much for seeing us
today.
Lovely to see. And guys, you'll be familiar with Carly, Woodstock Legal Services and her team. They will be exhibiting at the July show and also a Bristol show this year, and hopefully we'll be nominating for another LIS award towards the end of the year. But thank you very much for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed the interview with Carly and myself. Take care.